It is Wednesday, February 28th, 2018. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. I'm just going to start off by saying y'all got to, excuse me just a teeny tiny today, because I got choked out really good in class today, and so it might be just a teeny tiny punchy, a little bit behind the fold, might lose a thought or two, but otherwise, it was very productive. Get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Wednesday, and I most certainly did get my ass kicked. Yeah, you know, it's funny. I don't think I've been choked out very many times in the class. I think I've only ever been really choked out once, and so it's kind of a new experience. It kind of reminded me a little bit of, I've had a seizure or two here and there. I've passed out once or twice. And it certainly it felt like that, except like at the time I was trying to resist a choke, and the instructor was trying to get a choke on me and trying to show the class, and like he tried from one side and he couldn't get it, and so he switched around to the other side and he finally sunk it in, and I didn't really have an opportunity to tap before he put me out. So, but yeah, I've always been notoriously difficult to choke. I'm usually really keen on the setup, and getting there is the next challenge. You know, it's like you can have it in mind to do, but closing the deal, it's an entirely different story. That's why we practice, practice, practice. And as far as what we're going to talk about today, I haven't the slightest clue. But I got about, I'd say about 13 or 14 tabs open. So I'm sure we'll find something entertaining to talk about. Certainly something eventful. Although I will say this. Apparently there has been a significant change with the amount of people using segregated witness. And as to what to exactly attribute it to, I'm not entirely certain. There's been two things recently that it could easily be attributed to. Number one was the release of the latest Bitcoin Core Wallet, version 0.16.0. Oh, here we have a little bit of a... There we go. I got SegWit charts in front of me. Apparently they broke 30%. Didn't quite make 31%, and then dipped back down to 28%, and now I guess we're back up there around 30%. So still not 100%, but I don't know. I think that I think we'll see. You know, it's one of those things that's going to bear out over time. But I can see here in the last few blocks, it looks like the majority of the transactions were in fact SegWit. So, cool. Whatever. I don't know. Like I said, we will find out how that will affect things in the future. I don't think that it's actually the right way to go with Bitcoin, but we'll find out. The market has a way of correcting things that it doesn't like. And I think that's one of the more unique things about the cryptocurrency space, is that, you know, we can most directly communicate our confidence for coins and our rate of investment in them, and our desire to mine them, our desire to develop for them, you know, and how those developments affect the coin and the performance thereof. So in the longer term, we'll find out if everybody wants to actually use their Bitcoin like a Visa debit card, refillable. That's like my main meme when it comes to Lightning Network. Is personally, I feel that having to pre-fund my transactions, it's no different than putting money in a fucking bank account and then using your credit card to spend it. I mean, I don't see the advantage here. I mean, if it operates the same way and it's actually cheaper, that's the thing that bugs me about fees. I just had to do a transfer recently, and I did it as Bitcoin just because I wanted to see how low the fees actually had gone. And the fact of the matter is I paid over $10 for the fee. I think it was like 15, closer to 15, 20. And it took over an hour for my first confirmation. I mean, when I stopped watching it, it had been an hour, and my first confirmation had not occurred yet. See, to me, that's bullshit. Okay, that's not the way this shit's supposed to work. And if it is working that way, it's because there's something wrong. I mean, the fact that the market is willing to tolerate that, I'm really surprised. But then again, Bitcoin has the first mover advantage, but as the market has shown us repeatedly, first mover advantage only counts for so much. And after people get bored of you and your bullshit, they move on to other coins. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down into some music. And, I haven't been playing this at all. And I decided to pick it up because I actually like Sepultura with these guys involved. And I'm kind of sad that they're not still in Sepultura. Although, I'll be honest, towards the end there, after, Roots was really the kind of the killer for me. And then it's almost fortunate in my book that they did kind of break up after that one, because I felt they were getting too far into the bush. I mean, I understand the desire to convey their culture and whatnot through their music, and that's cool. And it was really cool on like the Chaos AD level, right? Like there were some elements that were more the Brazilian kind of influence, kind of, I don't know how to explain it, like the more tribal kind of influence. And Roots, kind of a step too far. Like there's one or two songs on there that just like, I don't know, it's like a campfire jam session or something out in the bush with some really good recording equipment. And I mean, that's cool and all, but it's not really what I was hoping for with regard to Sepultura. I mean, that's their right as artists to express themselves how they will. But of course, it is my right as a consumer to be critical of it. Anyway, it is with that. I want to go ahead and throw it in some Cavalier Conspiracy Inflicted here on Coin Metal. And that was Metallica with Battery. An oldie but goodie, certainly. And so yeah, I have tracked down a few things that I would like to talk about today. And the first one is just a darling to me. We spent a lot of time talking about the CFTC and the SEC on the show, and it's mostly because they're the regulatory bodies, I feel anyway, are probably the most sober-minded that I've seen so far with regard to cryptocurrencies. The rest of them, like the FBI and all those guys, they always talk about like terrorism and drugs and pedophilia. I mean, come on, man. If you've been around long enough, you probably heard that same bullshit when they were trying to justify regulating the internet and giving the FCC some sort of control over it. That we're gonna have fucking pedophiles all over the fucking internet, and we're gonna have drug dealers all over the fucking internet. You know what? This is just like the gun debate in my mind, because if people just want to buy drugs, people want to use drugs. Now, maybe they don't want to use the same drugs that you want them to use, but that's not really your call. So rather than making them into criminals and stigmatizing their even casual use of substances, how about you do what Mr. Timothy Leary told us to do back in the fucking, late 50s, early 60s, around there. Not that, tune in, drop out, whatever the fuck. I'm talking about where he was saying that we would get worse results by forcing drugs into the black market. That we would get substances on the black market that were billed as being these substances that people were wanting to purchase, but weren't necessarily the drugs that they wanted to purchase. I'm sure we've all heard about cocaine and other drugs being cut or diluted or so on and so forth, like ecstasy. You hear from people that go in raves and whatnot that you hardly ever get real quote-unquote ecstasy at a rave when you buy quote-unquote ecstasy. The purity of the product is usually quite diluted. But the point being is, this is a product of forcing these drugs into the black market. Now, if we were to have a more honest market, where you had these items on the shelves, number one, we would have lower uses. You'd actually have to have boutique stores, not because it's like something that there's so much demand for that you have to have boutique stores just so people can actually go and buy their regular groceries at stores without being flooded with other people, but because the actual demand for it is so limited and so occasional that you could have a boutique store that would be, an apothecary or some shit like that, and you could keep it all regulated and on the shelf right there. And everywhere else they've done this, like if you go over to Europe, over in like Amsterdam, they've not only legalized hash, and their conservative side has tried to invade in that bullshit, and every time they do, they get sober within like a month. They tried it once, where they banned, like everybody else, foreigners coming in from buying at the coffee shops. What happened? The black market soared through the fucking roof. The corruption soared through the fucking roof. And they experienced such a loss of revenue in the open market that it lasted about, I think it was like 2 months, maybe 3 months, and they're just like, okay, yeah, this obviously isn't working. It's obviously not the right plan. So we're going to change the legal status back to where foreigners can smoke all they want in the coffee shops. Got everything back above board, and it's fine now. And they've gone so far as to liberalize the use of psilocybin-bearing mushrooms. Now, that got fucked up because I guess some guy filleted a cat and ate it in the back of his van, or some bullshit like that. And that caused such an outcry that they tried to ban psilocybin-bearing mushrooms, right? So some guy got smart about it, and he thought about it, and he's like, you know what? This doesn't say anything about psychedelic truffles. And so he just started growing his mushrooms to where they would bloom in a truffle form below the soil, as opposed to above the soil. And they're, from what I saw of a show on Vice, they're quite psychedelic. So, they've defeated the ban. But again, where we see a liberalization of substance use, like Spain is another good example, Portugal is another good example, they find that the use of hard drugs, quote unquote psychedelics and cocaine and meth and heroin, they all fall through the floor because it all loses its allure. There's no mystery around the corner. It's right there on the fucking store shelf. There's no doubt as to what it does, because there it is. I think that's that's one of the things that Larry said, and that it struck me as like so clear-minded and whatnot for somebody who has been so demonized in our culture. But it was because that's what he was saying back then, back when we were, still trying to get loose of Leave It to Beaver as the home model and all that bullshit. We were sobering up to the reality that there was more to the mind than that, and more to life than that. And, of course, psychedelics were kind of leading that impulse. But I think that, again, that's something that Larry doesn't get any credit for. All he gets credit for is the stuff that he did after in the 80s, where he was touring around with other people that were known heads and talking about drugs and legalization of drugs and so on and so forth. But it was far more sensational than his original prescription, which was keep it in the legal market and be responsible for the fact that we are going to use drugs to alter the mind. But he was predicting something that we have yet to see. And it's starting to happen. It is starting to happen. I see a lot of it in Joe Rogan's show. Like there's a context for substances that his I don't know how to say it. Like his guests and himself. I don't know if it's intentional, like an intentional message they're trying to convey, or an impression they're trying to give through the show, or that how they are as people. But I get the impression that there's like a, how should I say this? Like a permissiveness with regard to using substances that is more interested in what are you using and what kind of effects are you getting out of using it, than, trying to persecute people for using a substance, or trying to vilify people for using a particular substance. It's a much more mature perspective. It's like, oh, really? You're using TRT? How's that working out for you? Are you cycling? Are you just constantly on? Or you're using Regenikine? Oh yeah, I got that done in Germany. There's this subtext there that's like I said, it's more permissive to the idea of modifying your being, your state of being, through quote-unquote chemical assistance. And I think that, again, it's a much more mature attitude, and Timothy Leary predicted this. He said that in the future, people will be saying, hey, what substance do you use? What are you using right now? That's, what substance? And I thought that was just so mind-blowing that, he would have that perspective back in the 60s. And like I said, we're not really mature enough yet to get there. I think that we're on the verge of it, though. Mostly because we're not going to be able to afford to maintain the facade of I don't know how to say it, like this provincialism where, it's something that we have to vilify one another for. Oh, what? You drink a lot? Pfft, you're a fucking douchebag. You use meth? You're a loser. Again, it's like, I think when we're starting to get into self-abuse, then we're talking about some other issues that need to be addressed. And I think that once we get over the idea that we have to persecute people for using drugs, that we'll start asking the bigger question, and this is where I was talking about guns, which is, what causes people to do this? What is the deficiency that is being addressed by this alteration? Is it a dietary thing? Isn't it environmental? Is it you're just not getting enough fucking exercise? It's you hate your job. It's you can't stand the people that you're hanging around with, but you don't know how to make associations with people that aren't like that yet. You know, these are all things that, again, we don't really commonly openly address, but I think that after we got over the immaturity of pointing a finger at people for using substances, and we get more down to, oh, hey, you tried that out the other day? How'd that work out for you? Did you ever come down? Are you still lit? When we get to that point, I think that we will be looking at it in terms of looking at one another and the issues that we face more as, are you sure you don't need some help with that? You know, you seem to be doing that quite a bit. You know, what's going on, man? And again, this is the point that we never get to with regard to these shootings or whatever. What caused it? Something caused it. Why did he hate the school so much? Why did he hate certain students so much that he wanted to take a gun there and shoot people? What was the catalyst? Because we're talking about a person that used a tool to do something terrible to other people. You know, he didn't take it out on the school. He wasn't just shooting the walls and shit. He was taking it out on people. So I would be willing to bet he had some very poor relationship skills. You know, very poor social skills. And from what I understand, he didn't actually have the greatest background with regard to his parents and his home life and whatnot. And I'm not trying to make excuses here, but what I am suggesting is this: that there are people do things for a reason. They don't just arbitrarily choose to do this shit. You know, it wasn't, you know what, I'm not doing anything today, it's Wednesday, you know, I got this gun, hey, you know what, I'm going to go take this to the... No. That didn't happen. It was, I need a gun. Why? Because I can't do what I need to do to somebody without it. And there's the expectation, or the at least knowledge, that they're probably not going to get plugged. I'm probably not going to get plugged by the safety officer that's, you know, spending all this time out in the parking lot smoking pot, or I don't know. But I mean, obviously, there was a catalyst there. You know, again, people do things for a reason. Anyway, we're not here to talk about psychology or the motivations of the criminal mind. We're here to talk about cryptocurrencies. And this one, again, I think this is so entertaining because these guys, in particular, are supposed to be watching for market manipulation and whatnot. And so, and they're very, very intimately involved with business organizations. You know, they know things about the fitness of organizations that maybe you and I don't know. And so here it is. This one's on Cointelegraph. U.S. regulators, CFTC, allows staff to trade cryptocurrency. Bitcoin futures remain off limits. And this was written approximately 27 minutes ago by Mr. William Suberg. So yes, penis. The U.S. Commodities Future Trading Commission, CFTC, has formally allowed its employees to trade cryptocurrencies, but maintained its ban on Bitcoin futures participation. Bloomberg reports Wednesday, February 28th. The regulator, which together with the Securities and Exchange Commission oversee asset and commodity legislation nationally, report that they made the decision earlier this month. The CFTC chief lawyer, General Counsel Daniel Davis, wrote in a memo to staff February 5th in response to numerous inquiries they could freely engage in the trading of cryptocurrencies, investing in Bitcoin futures products, which the CFTC began regulating after giving them the green light in December, would continue to be against the rules. However, quote, in this environment, the situation is ripe for the public to question the personal ethics of employees engaging in cryptocurrency transactions, Bloomberg quotes Davis's writing. The staff memo reportedly continues, quote, please keep in mind that you must endeavor to avoid any actions creating the appearance that you are violating the law or government and commission ethical standards. The CFTC Chairman J. Christopher Giancarlo joined SEC Chairman Jay Clayton for a dedicated hearing on cryptocurrency February 6th, during which the regulators continued their broadly hands-off regulatory policy focusing on investor awareness and consumer fraud protection. In response to whether newly liberated CFTC traders could have a hand in shaping that ongoing policy, Giancarlo's spokesperson Erica Richardson was clear, stating, the chairman has made it clear that staff members who own Bitcoin should not participate in matters related to Bitcoin as it presents a conflict of interest. Yeah, I can see that. However, it's a tricky one because cryptocurrencies are actually, how do I put it? They're they're global. They're international. They're distributed all over the place. And so, I don't care if the CFTC gets wrecked. I really don't. What I do care about is them making decisions with regard to who they're going to regulate and so on and so forth, and how they're going to regulate people based on what they're able to learn, in their position as regulators and whatnot. I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I would rather they not be using their trading information to dictate their legislation and whatnot. I'd rather they let their greed guide them and leave the door completely open, honestly, because that seems to be their approach so far for the most part. There have been intrusions from the SEC and the CFTC into the ongoings of cryptocurrency, but as this article points out and others have, they do seem to be more, I don't know how to put it. They're more casual and cautious with regard to wanting to get too involved in regulating us, and I think that's probably a better approach than we've seen in other regulatory bodies' statements concerning cryptocurrencies, where they have said, we're going to ban ICOs, or we're going to ban participation in certain exchanges. You know what? Everywhere they say that bullshit, you know what happens? The same thing that happens in the drug markets. The fucking money goes off of exchanges where they could be easily monitored, and the transactive activity is completely above the board. They go from there to less dependable exchanges, to more nefarious exchanges. I mean, this is a natural response. So I'd like to echo Timothy Leary in that we need to keep it all above board. Quit trying to regulate it into the dark, because that's all you're going to do. And I think with regard to cryptocurrencies, that's far more dangerous than you'd like to admit. I mean, it's not like you're going to stop them. So the best thing you can do is keep all of the economic indicators of them completely above board. Keep the shit on chain. I mean, because at least then you can watch it. You can say, oh shit, it looks like $3 trillion worth of monetary value just shifted over into cryptocurrency last year. What are we going to do on our interest rate, next month or whatever to try and counterbalance this interest in cryptocurrencies? I think that is a far more useful and healthy kind of environment than, we don't like what these ICOs are doing, so we're going to ban this type of ICO. Next thing you know, you've created a premium on that ICO market, and more people than should be involved in them or would have been involved in them otherwise are now involved in them because of the extra premium, the extra fucking incentive. Because rather than making 20-30% in the first couple months or whatever, they're making 200-300% because of this additional interest you've drawn to this type of investment. One of these days and soon, if they haven't figured this one out already, and all of this is just like public posturing and whatnot, they're going to figure it out soon. And it's not going to be a very pretty lesson. I mean, we found this out everywhere. We found it out in Venezuela most recently, where now they've gone to this stage where they're going to have a national cryptocurrency. Can you believe that shit? And it's not even a real cryptocurrency. That's the sad part about it. It's more like an Ethereum contract. I can't even... I can't... It's I've said it a million times on this show. You absolutely cannot peg a cryptocurrency to another commodity or other thing of value. You just can't do it. Can't be done. The closest you can do is like an ERC20 token, but even then, all you're doing is introducing another abstraction of value between the commodity itself and the monetary value that you're exchanging it for and the exchange rate that you're exchanging it at. That's not going to help you any. It's going to make things worse. Anywho, on that point, one of the more entertaining participants in this market, Goldman Sachs, here it is. Got this article off of CoinDesk. Goldman Sachs executive, central bank cryptos could be incredibly useful. And this is by Nicholas D. So yes, penis, February 27th, 2018, 2100 UTC. A senior executive for Goldman Sachs believes that cryptocurrencies, at least those that might one day be created by central banks, could be incredibly useful. Sharman Masavar Ramani, Chief Investment Officer for Goldman's Private Wealth Management Unit, spoke with Business Insider in an interview published Tuesday. You know what? Thank you, Nicholas. We're not going to read your article. We're going to read the one on Business Insider because that's the one that actually probably deserves the credit here. Oh, ha ha ha. Pay dirt. Sorry, I had to get a sip. Yeah, this one's on Business Insider. Goldman Sachs investment chief, Bitcoin is definitely a bubble. Ethereum even more so. That's a much different title than the one we originally had. You know what? Let's check something out here. I want to make sure that that's actually the right article. Well, that's not a bag, so here. SEC blah 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 blah. No, wrong one. Got a lot of stuff on the SEC today, so trying to find the one that I had for Goldman. Anyway, fuck it. We'll just go with the one on Business Insider. So as soon as it finishes loading, we can read it. Here we go. Bitcoin is definitely in a bubble. Ethereum even more so. This is by Kara Chin and Jackie Frank. February 27th, 2018, 9:33 a.m. Sharman Mossavar-Rahmani is the CIO of the Private Wealth Management Group at Goldman Sachs, where she guides the investment strategy for clients with over $10 million in assets. Mossavar-Rahmani joined Business Insider's Sarah Silverstein to discuss cryptocurrencies. Following is a transcript of the video. Sarah Silverstein: are your clients worried, and are they interested in cryptocurrencies? Are they interested in Bitcoin? Are they worried that it's going to destroy the market? What are you hearing from your clients, and what's your point of view? Sharman Mossavar-Rahmani: cryptocurrencies are the hot topic. One of our colleagues, Mary Rich, has actually spent a lot of time on it, and she's so much in demand because everybody wants to talk to her and learn more about cryptocurrencies, learn more about blockchain. Our view is that while we like the concept of blockchain and think it will evolve into a useful tool for companies for the financial industry, we think cryptocurrencies in their current format, meaning in that the current information are in a bubble. Incarnation, my apologies. We actually have a couple of very interesting exhibits in our report, and the report is available for any of your viewers who would like to see it on the Goldman Sachs website. And we show the returns of cryptocurrencies against other asset classes that have been in bubble territory. For example, we compare it to the topics in 1990. We compare it to the NASDAQ in 2000. And what you can see is that basically these are other big bubbles that we've had to look like a flat line, even compared to tulip bulb prices. Tulip mania in the 1600s, which was a bubble. We always talk about tulip mania. The Bitcoin prices are astronomical. Then we compare that to Ether. Ethereum is even more astronomical. So clearly, these valuations don't make sense to us. In addition, we think that these currencies have major shortcomings. Is there room for a digital currency, maybe sponsored by one of the major central banks like the Federal Reserve? Yes. Could it be incredibly useful? Could it reduce transaction costs? Yes. But not these ones. Of course not, because you're mining them. Silverstein: and how connected is it to the rest of the market? And how connected is it to the rest of the market? Could there be if all of it blows up? Will it impact other people's portfolios? Mossavar-Rahmani: that's an excellent question, and clients ask us if the dot-com bubble bursts or when the subprime mortgages, here it is, led to the downdraft and eventually the global financial crisis. Could we see something similar from the impact of cryptocurrencies coming down? But cryptocurrencies are a much smaller part of the global economy. Whether you compare it to the US GDP or global GDP, it's less than 1% of global GDP. And so, in terms of the impact, it'll have some impact. There are a lot of people who have set up various exchanges, infrastructure, hedge funds in that space. So obviously they will get hurt. But it's a very, very small part of the global GDP. And let's see here. And that's it? Wow. All that for nothing. Well, I think that Goldman Sachs is wrong. But, these are the same people that affix on that term, blockchain. Blockchain. You know what? If you don't have miners, you don't have a blockchain. And see, that's one of the aspects of Bitcoin that they don't like. Is because you are mining it, because you have a copy of the registry, you know who has what. Or at least you have a copy of the record of who owns what. And that's really bad for them because they like to pretend like they own everything. But when you have the private keys, they don't. But yeah, I don't think that central banks are going to have cryptocurrencies that are actually publicly traded. I think they may have them between one another, and that's fine and good, but they're no use to us. And I think that's part of what people like Goldman miss about cryptocurrencies is that they aren't the authorities in these things. All they are is end users like you and me. And they might have development teams working on quote-unquote blockchain bullshit or investing in cryptocurrencies, which is a step up, actually. It doesn't really matter. I mean, if I'm not investing in Goldman Sachs coin or Federal Reserve coin, then it doesn't matter. If I have more faith in Dogecoin, but in fact I do, than I do in the Federal Reserve, what use is the Federal Reserve coin going to be to me? Probably not a real useful thing. And so utility, we always come back to it, but utility is a big part of what makes something valuable. And again, if it's only useful between banks and whatnot, then it's going to be useful for them. It's not necessarily going to be useful for the rest of us. And if it's not, then that's all of us that aren't part of that market. And we're not going to stop generating monetary value or new units to count it in. And so again, Goldman Sachs, you and the Federal Reserve are on par with Dogecoin, with Verge, with Bitcoin, with Litecoin, with Dash, with Bitcoin Cash. And actually, you're not even on par with them because you're not live and open in the public. So, something to keep in mind. If I don't have it, it is useless to me. If it has no use to me, it has no value to me. That's all there is to it. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. A little bit of ministry here. Let's go. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Slipknot with Custer. And I'm not entirely certain whether or not they're actually touring. I could swear I saw something about Stone Sour touring, or working on something or something. I don't know. Anywho, I had a mild crash there at the beginning of the music break. Sorry about that, but I resolved it. I just had too many damn tabs open on my browser. I mean, it was to the point where I'm sure one of them had a fucking miner in it or something, because it just caused everything to get really fucking slow. Anyway, we kept recording, so it's all good. Anywho, I got this article here on The Guardian, of all sources. Hawk or dove? Bitcoin is forcing central banks to take sides. And this is by Howard Davies, going by the name, yes, penis. A few days ago, President Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela announced his government had launched the Petro, a new state-sponsored cryptocurrency. He claimed that $735 million worth of the new currency had already been sold, though observers are skeptical unless state entities have been obliged to buy them. Even they will find it hard to do so, however, as The technology platform on which the petro will be traded has not yet been confirmed. International demand for the petro will not be helped by recent pronouncements from Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, the sages of Omaha, who still control Berkshire Hathaway. Speaking of cryptocurrencies in general, Buffett was scathing. I can almost say with almost with certainty that they will come to a bad end, he declared in January, while noting for good measure that he would be glad to buy put options on every one of them. Munger is, if anything, even more hostile, characterizing Bitcoin in particular as totally asinine and a noxious poison. Not much room for doubt there. They are, of course, looking at Bitcoin as a potential investment. The public authorities have slightly different concerns. Market regulators are interested in protecting investors and having begun to issue warnings. Although these warnings have been soda voice so far, or soda voca? I don't understand that language, whatever it is. I expect they will rise in volume soon as the price gyrations continue. They should also be worried about the opportunities created for money launderers and for trade in illicit drugs. We already discussed the fix to that one. Take the illicit out of it and then you eliminate the illicit market. But central banks have a broader set of concerns. Will cryptocurrencies usurp their role as monopoly suppliers of money? They've already done that. Are there serious implications for financial stability if central banks lose control of the levers which influence purchasing power in the economy? Interestingly, a number of different answers to these questions are emerging, and central banks are dividing into hawks and doves. At the hawkish end of the spectrum sit the Chinese. Last year, the People's Bank of China shut down Bitcoin exchanges and clamped down on initial coin offerings. Using a turn of phrase too vivid for Western central bankers, Pan Gongshen, a PBOC deputy governor, said in December, as Keynes taught us, the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. There's only one thing left to do. Sit on the riverbank and see Bitcoin's body pass by one day. Russia, unsurprisingly, takes a similar view. Elvira Nibulina, my apologies, the governor of Russia's central bank, declared in December that, quote, "We don't legalize pyramid schemes, and we are totally opposed to private money, no matter if it is in physical or virtual form." The doves are numerous, however. The Bank of Canada has noted that the distributed ledger technology underpinning Bitcoin could make the financial system more efficient, and it is examining whether it should, at some appropriate point, issue its own digital currency for retail transactions. The Bank of England is similarly intrigued by the possibilities, dismissing concerns that digital currencies pose a risk to financial stability and noting that the underlying technology may have other uses across the financial system and may be a useful platform to power a central bank digital currency. Both banks are actively researching the subject, and their views might best be described as Maoist in the let 100 flowers bloom sense. So it was brave of Augustin Carstens, the new general manager of the Bank for International Settlements, the central bank's central bank, to choose the topic of Bitcoin for one of his first major speeches. Could Carstens, the former longtime governor of the Bank of Mexico, find a happy medium between the hawks and the doves, between the controlling Chinese and the complacent Canadians? To frame his argument, Carstens returned to first principles, seeking to define money and then to understand the extent to which digital currencies qualify. The three criteria, he reminds us, are that a currency acts as a unit of account, a common means of payment, and a store of value. Few, if any, goods are priced in Bitcoin. It is very rarely used in transactions, not entirely true, and the costs of doing so are prohibitive, artificially so. As for being a store of value, cryptocurrencies' price volatility makes them, so far, a highly risky investment. While cryptocurrencies may pretend to be currencies, Carstens concludes, they fail the basic textbook definitions. Not entirely true at all. Moreover, without, quote, institutional backup. Yeah, my apologies on there. I unplugged my damn microphone again. And so I was fading in and out there, and one of the people in the Telegram was kind enough to tell me, thank you very much, CC. I appreciate that, good sir. In checking and verifying, and we are outputting, we are connected, and so yeah, all that's straightened out. And I've resumed recording, so we're all good on that end as well. And so now we can continue on with what I was saying. So yeah, the concerns with environmental concerns on the point of mining. I started to talk about this a little bit about manufacturing. You know, if you're involved in manufacturing at all, you understand the concept of trying to streamline. Okay, and this is where you try to cut out what we call bottlenecks in your system. Okay, places where it's holding up production in certain points that it doesn't necessarily have to. And what you do at those points is, like, if one step can handle a complete production run in 1 hour, in the next production step it only takes a half an hour for them to do the complete lot, then you double the capacity of the next step, and that way it takes an hour and it evens it out. So you're not just bumping it from one to the next. You've evened out your approach, or you reduce. You know, like with regard to your hour-long production, you can look at that production step and see if you can break it up. And that evens out your flow, so you don't have product that's stuck at one step that's ready to be moved to the next step. And that's that just-in-time manufacturing ideology. And because of that's been common in manufacturing for, I want to say at least the last century of industrial level manufacturing. So the idea that Bitcoin mining is going to, for some reason or another, stop becoming more efficient over time, it's just fucking ludicrous. There's no other thing that's worth bothering to manufacture that doesn't get more efficient over time. You know, I've been saying now for a while, what's needed to happen in Bitcoin mining is a huge manufacturer. Okay, and a Motorola, a Samsung, an Intel, an IBM. One of these guys to really get serious about making something similar, if not better than, an ASIC. When that happens, we will see the engineering minds that have been streamlining fucking Intel processors for the last, 40 fucking years now, being applied to manufacturing ASICs. What do you think that might do? You think maybe they'll become a little smaller? Maybe a little cooler? maybe achieve the same work with a smaller architecture? What do you think that might do to the energy consumption of miners? I think it would make them a lot cooler. And also, I think it would probably make them a little more efficient and suck up a little less electricity. You know, there are 3 big costs for every miner in the world: hardware, electricity, bandwidth. These are 3 things that they are trying to make cheaper for themselves. And now I want you to reflect on your own computer use and your own internet use, and what are the things that you use when you're accessing the internet from whatever device you're doing it in. You need 3 things. You need hardware, you need electricity, and you need bandwidth. Now, I've said this before, that I believe that mining, if it is allowed to remain as it is in the whole schema of creating currencies for us to transact with one another globally, that it is going to drive the efficiencies of all computer hardware for the foreseeable future. I mean, I think at some point or another, virtual reality may, or augmented reality may become bigger drivers. But I'm telling you right now, what is pushing the need to make shit more efficient and faster and cooler and smaller and faster and cooler and smaller and more efficient and more productive? What's pushing that right now is mining. I mean, NVIDIA has had their wake-up moment. They're finally acknowledging how much of their profits are actually coming from fucking miners. And they're like, yeah, we actually made a significant amount of money last year. And yes, it was miners. It wasn't video game players. It was people trying to make money with our fucking hardware. And again, I'm sure Samsung getting into the picture, I'm sure that had something to do with their realization moment, where they had to start talking about their mining segment of their profits as something that's a significant part of their annual returns, because they've been downplaying it this entire time. I talked about it on the show, like, I don't know how many times, as late as, I want to say, August. They were downplaying the amount of profits they were making on mining from selling cards to Ethereum miners, to Zcash miners, all these guys that, you know, are better off without ASICs. And like I said, they were downplaying it. They're like, oh, you know, it's kind of an issue. It's driving up the cost for gamers, but, you know, it's not really something that we see going to fucking. We knew he was jerking off back then. He was probably buying his own stock, and he's probably like, dude, if we blow it up right now, I'm not going to be able to afford to buy a significant number of shares, and we know next quarter we're going to blow the fucking doors off the video card market with our headless mining cards. We're going to blow the fuck out of it, and so I need to buy more shares, so I need to downplay it so everybody doesn't throw money at us and skyrocket the fucking cost of our stock out of my hands. I mean, that's like the only motivation I can think of. It's like the chairman or the board is like, dude, we need to increase how much of our stock we have, because this is going to be really, really valuable to us in the coming year. We can see it happening. We want to take advantage of it, but we don't want to alert the public to it, because then they'll buy up all the fucking stock that's available and it'll get too expensive for us. And then they'll have us over a barrel. So, again, like I said, they're finally acknowledging it. I think that Samsung coming into the ring has a really big part of it. And I really hope that Samsung gets serious and starts going for the consumer, for the consuming miner out there, the people that are buying the S9s. That should be their target audience. They should be looking at those guys and saying, we need to make a smaller, faster, better device for these people. And we need to make it cheaper and blow these other fuckers out of the water. Because we have the productive capacity. We have the distribution capacity to do it. And we can really take advantage of this market because Intel and fucking IBM, they're busy building their own fucking blockchains and jerking off with proprietary hardware and all that other bullshit, thinking they're going to maintain the kind of market dominance that they've maintained in computing by keeping everybody else out in a market where everybody else is able to participate in. You see, it's not computing there. I mentioned it on Twitter that I think that one of the things that people are missing about crypto or have started forgetting about or have lost sight of is participation. Participation matters. If you participate in it, you increase the value of it. Because you're dedicating your time, your effort to it. Your electricity, your hardware, so on and so forth. But yeah, like I said, I think that mining, it's going to be the big driver. I mean, previously, we've had software pushing hardware development and hardware pushing software development or pulling software development. And it's gone to where it's like on this really rhythmic cycle, to where Intel releases one version one year and then an upgraded version of that version the next year, and then the year after that they do a different version and then an upgraded version and so on and so forth, right? They've got it on like a timing cycle. I think that when you hit into that level of, how should I say it, stultification in the market where it's almost stagnant, to where it's just like, the only reason to make things newer and better and whatnot is so that you can make it newer and faster and better. It's not actually because there's a need for it. I know people that are still using Windows 95 machines. Why? Because the Windows 95 machine actually satisfies all of their computing needs. As ridiculous as that may sound, that's really all the level of interface they need to get by and do what they need to do with that computer. It's like I've got a dumb phone. I've got a dumb phone for a reason. Because it can't go on the internet. Or it's limited access to the internet makes it to where I'm not using it for the internet. I'd rather sit here in front of my desktop. It's certainly a more pleasant interface. Anywho, I got this other article here I want to launch into before we drop down into music again here. And it's on newsbtc.com. These are the reasons why Bill Gates is wrong about cryptocurrency. And this is by Rick D. So yes, penis. And it's March 1st, 2018? God damn, way in the future. I swear, man, these people are like, they're not watching their dates. They're like releasing it a date early or something. I don't know. Anyway, continuing on. It was widely reported yesterday that the planet's second richest man, Bill Gates, is no lover of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. The founder of Microsoft claimed that in their short existence, digital currencies have already been a fairly direct cause of deaths. Oh, you mean like you, Bill? Gates slams cryptocurrencies over connections to crime. I wonder how much crime is committed on Windows machines, huh? During a, quote, Ask Me Anything session on Reddit yesterday, Gates stated that cryptocurrency has been responsible for various evils. Among these, the multi-billionaire alleges that Bitcoin and other digital coins have been the cause of many deaths. Right now, cryptocurrencies are being used for buying fentanyl and other drugs. So it is a rare technology that has caused deaths in a fairly direct way, as opposed to sterilization. He also cited money laundering, tax evasion, and terrorist funding as reasons why he's not in favor of the revolutionary payment methods. He went on to claim that it's a good thing when governments are able to root out tax dodgers. Oh yeah, whatever, Bill. Tell me the Gates Foundation isn't so you can write off a significant chunk of your fucking income every year. In Gates' blanket damnation of cryptos, he neglects to acknowledge several things. However, firstly, and most strikingly, is the fact that every crime he mentions is equally possible using paper money. Actually, most of it is denominated and transacted in that, but we won't get into that right now. As long as banknotes have existed, people have dealt drugs, laundered money, and avoided taxation using them. The fact that a crime is made possible because of a technology or tool does not make it inherently evil. Assuming so would be akin to affiliating Gates' own company with terrorist organizing and dark web drug dealing just because some of those that have carried out such acts use a Windows operating system at some point during their crime. Obviously, such an accusation is absolutely ridiculous. Next, it can be argued that the allegations about avoiding taxation and cryptocurrencies contributing to deaths are contradictory. After all, it's not because of the tax system that the U.S. is able to fund the bombing of Syria, in which over 10,000 civilians have been killed in this year alone. Of course, taxation pays for positive things too, just like cryptocurrencies facilitate many societal goods. Gates overlooks near-instant cross-border payments, giving access to cheap and easy-to-use banking-style services to those in the third world who lack them, and the removal of leech-like middlemen from global financial institutions when he condemns cryptocurrency. Frankly, this refusal to acknowledge the good as well as the evil is incredibly narrow-minded. Finally, Gates completely overlooks the fact that people will find a way to take drugs irrespective of the payment method they use to buy them. People took drugs long before cryptocurrency was invented and would continue to do so if the powers that be were somehow able to stamp out the use of Bitcoin at all, entirely. Cryptocurrency may well have facilitated the sale of drugs on the dark web, but thanks to eBay-style rating systems on pages like the now-defunct Alphabay and others, sellers of bad quality, dangerous substances are unlikely to last long in the almost free online markets. Compare this to dealers pushing God knows what on street corners across the globe to anyone with enough paper dollars to buy from them. Evidently, there is a problem when people wish to escape from reality in such a way that they're willing to put potentially toxic substances into their bodies. However, chastising the method they use to pay for them does nothing whatsoever to tackle the issue. Societies like the Netherlands have proven that when given access to clean narcotics and safe places in which to use them, the numbers of those taking intoxicating substances and subsequently dying from it decline. It's frankly absurd to blame cryptocurrencies for the myriad of issues that stem from years of prohibition and the demonizing of drug users. Wow. I didn't even read this article first, and we pre-covered like 70% of it, what's in it. Yeah, Bill, let's talk about all the drug deals that have been facilitated by the Windows operating system. I guarantee you it's far more than cryptocurrency has ever made possible. But yeah, I think that Bill is more worried about the banking aspects of it than anything. You know, he's kind of from old world money into the new world. His parents were quite well off. So, you know, things that would threaten the echelons that allowed him to get to where he is in life, yeah, you know, I can understand why he'd be a little nervous about it. But, you know, frankly, after your first $1 billion, I think you can kind of stop worrying about it. You know, I don't know. Maybe that's like an itch that never gets scratched, no matter how many billions you have in your pocket. But I've never been that greedy, so I wouldn't know. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And as far as what to put in, I'm kind of at a loss at the moment. Fuck it. Some Power Man. Nobody's Real. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Machine Head with Old. I'd started trying to play Aesthetics of Hate, but apparently when I copied that over, the encoder that I used was kind of funky. And I was just like, nah, I don't want to do that. So, yeah, that's where that is. Anywho, I do have this article, and I kind of wanted to touch into this one. I've actually read the Homeland Security Assessment of Terrorist Use of Virtual Currencies Act, and I think I've read it actually. If I have, I've already posted an episode where I did read that. I read something about virtual currencies and terrorism and all that other bullshit. Basically, it was some bullshit pretext to try and regulate cryptocurrencies. But anyway, I got this article on themerkel.com. What is the Homeland Security Assessment of Terrorist Use of Virtual Currencies Act? I don't know. But wait a minute, this is a long time ago. Never mind. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I already read this fucking thing. Yeah, sorry. I'd clicked on a link from one of the previous articles that we covered, and it led me to that fucking thing, and it's in September 1st, so I'm almost 100% positive I have actually read it on the show. So, we're not going to go there. I've already covered it. Not going to do it. So that's out. But this one, I wanted to touch on. Wait a minute. No, I don't want to register. Do I have to register just to read this fucking thing? You're a success story. Yeah, whatever. Fuck you. Where the fuck is the article? Motherfuckers. Damn it, Jim. I was really hoping to read this fucking article, but apparently hacked.com doesn't do that. We've already covered the U.S. regulator CFTC, so kind of stuck here. Fuck it. That one. Got that one. Covered that one. I got a whole bunch of stuff here that I could be clicking on. This is the one that I had before. I had an issue with my browser, and I could swear it probably had a fucking minor in one of the tabs or some shit like that. But that is going to be a bigger issue. I mean, it's an issue now. I think it's going to be a bigger issue in the not so distant future. And I really think somebody ought to start kicking Monero in the dick for it. Because XMR is the primary currency that's being mined with this fucking CoinHive shit. And there's all kinds of websites out there that are just ganking your fucking computer cycles and mining while you've got the tab open. At least while you've got the tab open, if not including the period thereafter. Anyway, got this article here on Cointelegraph, and I'd wanted to cover this one earlier, but like I said, it was in one of my tabs, and I had to close it because, you know, It's one of those things. Let's see here. I want to make sure I'm getting it from the most in-depth source. And of course, we can't depend on the Wall Street Journal because they got a fucking paywall. But what we can do, because we like to circumvent them, we'll just copy, search, and see what other source we come up with. It's always the best way to go about it, especially with paywalls. 9 times out of 10, there is somebody else has written a story about what it is that's on Wall Street Journal. You know, they either copy it word for word from Wall Street Journal, or they post it in a way that's a circumvention of it, or, you know, some such. Post another variant of it. I don't know, you know. There's all kinds of ways that people get around the fucking paywall on them. Let's see. Zero Hedge. It's on Zero Hedge. Thank you, Cece. God damn, you're awesome. If I care enough, I'll wait until it's on Zero Hedge. That's funny. Yeah, that's pretty much my perspective on it too. I don't go to paywalls. I don't pay for fucking digital media, period. Not in a conventional sense, anyway. Anyway, I got this one, and it's on marketwatch.com. Apparently, it's just an abbreviation of that. So, I'm going to see if there's actually a better source for this article. Like I said, I like circumvention. I don't like paywalls. Fuck you. Fucking paywall. Let's see if CNBC did any better. Maybe. Oh no, of course, everybody's referring back to the Wall Street Journal. Let's see if this. No, that's on Wall Street Journal too. Motherfucker. Yeah. Like I said, it'll be on fucking, like CC said, it'll be on Zero Hedge tomorrow or the next day or some shit like that. But we'll cover it from Christine Wang, just because no penis. This is on CNBC.com. SEC launches probe into cryptocurrency market. Wall Street Journal citing sources. The Securities and Exchange Commission is looking into the cryptocurrency market. The Wall Street Journal reported Wednesday. The newspaper reported that as part of that investigation, the SEC has issued scores of subpoenas to obtain information from technology companies and advisors tied to the digital currency market. They haven't sent one for me yet. Let's see here. Copy that. And you know what? We're going to start a search on that right now, so that when we're ready for it, it's there. Alright, a spokesperson for the SEC declined to comment to the Journal. The news comes as high demand for Bitcoin and other digital currencies has sent their valuation into wild gyrations. Concerns about regulatory crackdowns recently sent the market cap of Bitcoin spiraling from a mid-December record high above $19,000. The digital currency hit a low below $6,000. It's the lowest since November. And no, I'm not going to read the report on the Wall Street Journal, because fuck those guys. But we're going to find out more about this probe. That's what we were looking for. And let's see what this is. Wall Street Journal, blah, 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 blockchain pretenders. This looks like it may actually be original content. Or at least kind of. And this one's on investors.com. SEC issues scores of Bitcoin-related subpoenas report. And you know what? We're going to actually take another look and see if we can find a a fuller article. Like from the SEC, it would be nice. Oh, this is actually scores of subpoenas. Apparently that's that's a bit more fleshed out. So why not? We're going to go for it. This is on cryptobriefing.com. SEC directly targeting ICO market with subpoenas. The Securities and Exchange Commission is reported to be issuing subpoenas. And this is by Mr. David Shepard from the picture and the name. Yes, penis. This is authored on February 28th, 2018. ICO companies are reportedly being targeted by the Securities and Exchange Commission, according to Wall Street Journal. Despite what has seemed to be a fairly positive tone from the SEC on blockchain technology in general, the structure of ICOs has continued to raise their hackles. Jay Clayton, chairman of the SEC, stated in December that, quote, I believe initial coin offerings, whether they represent offerings of securities or not, can be effective ways for entrepreneurs and others to raise funding, including for innovative projects. However, any such activity that involves an offering of securities must be accompanied by the important disclosures, processes, and other investor protections that our securities laws require. According to the Wall Street Journal, scores of subpoenas have been issued to tech companies and advisors. The nature of the questioning that may result is not yet clear, but it seems likely that Clayton and his staff are seeking to further clarify the nature of an initial coin offering, possibly as a precursor to a specific declaration toward their status as securities or otherwise. Sorry. A source with knowledge of a recent ICO confirmed to Crypto Briefing that specific steps had been taken to alleviate the possibility of an SEC investigation. The source would not confirm or deny that this particular ICO had been issued with a subpoena. Clayton was keen to recognize that some cryptocurrencies do not appear to be securities in his December statement. However, he also had prescient words for those who create initial coin offerings. Quote, I also caution market participants against promoting or touting the offer and sale of coins without first determining whether the securities laws apply to those actions. Know your customer compliance and self-regulation within the industry has become commonplace. Based on an assessment of over 70 upcoming ICOs, Crypto Briefing has concluded that at least 90% of all offerings now exclude U.S. investors unless accredited. However, these self-imposed rules may not be enough to satisfy Clayton, who has explicitly declared his support for, quote, Main Street investors and made their protection from scams a priority. Overall, ICO interest has continued to build despite potential for regulatory hurdles. CoinSchedule estimates that over $800 million was raised in January alone, with giants Envion, Neuromation, and Crypterium raising over $50 million. Altcoins traded lower globally all day, with 8 to 10% losses commonplace, according to CoinMarketCap. So yeah, that was an interesting perspective. But I think the SEC is going to find out that yes, there are some scams out there. And there are several, quote, ICOs that don't necessarily fit their fitness requirements, but aren't necessarily scams. And I think that's going to be the bigger find, is that, if anything, the kind of regulation that they would like to impose on ICOs would actually create more problems than it solves. You know, this idea of self-selecting the participants of an ICO, I don't see that as being useful. I mean, because ultimately you could end up with just a bunch of whales nibbling on little people, you know? And I think that that's an unfortunate, like, certainty if the SEC starts getting serious. You know, I think that private ICOs and all that other stuff, that stuff's going to happen. Whether or not it's actually useful to anybody is another story. Like I said before, if I don't have it, it doesn't have any utility to me. If I don't have access to it, I can't use it. If I can't use it, it doesn't have any use for me. And so if it doesn't have any use for me, it doesn't necessarily have any value for me. It's like gold bugs like to tout gold because of its physical presence. Yeah, physical presence has some inherent positive attributes, assuming, of course, you're the one that physically possesses it. If you don't, all you have is a fucking piece of paper. You don't actually have the gold, or the silver, or the platinum, or whatever the fuck it is. The unobtainium. But, you know, when you look at things that way, you start to understand money in a different aspect. It's not so much the abstraction of value. You know, I mean, you start to look at it as just vehicles to convey monetary value from one person to another. And like gold, it's very, very useful in physical markets. Very local, very liquid physical markets. But if it's plentiful enough to be used in such a way, regardless of where the market is, it's not necessarily going to have the same exchange rate as it does in the outside economy. And that's where the idea of private ICOs kind of lose a little bit of their value, is because if we're only able to participate with them in a peripheral form, you know, like we can buy some derivative token, whatever the fuck, but not necessarily the thing itself, then the thing itself loses its value, and the exchange, the thing that I can actually purchase, has its value. And so the thing that the exchange rate on the other side, on the private currency side, is going to experience slippage. You know, we've seen the same thing happen with quote-unquote forks with regard to Bitcoin and other coins. But on that point, we have to look at the separate projects, the separate coins that result, and evaluate them separately. You know, what are the attributes that made the fork absolutely necessary? And when we can look at those metrics and see that it's a better value proposition to go with the fork as opposed to the original, then logic states we're going to go with the alternative. If it's faster, if it's cheaper, we're going to go with the alternative. And this is a market reality that certain participants seem to have forgotten. And I have a feeling in the not so distant future, they're going to get a significant reminder of it. Anywho, got this one last article I think we can squeeze in. It's not entirely too long here, but kind of interested in it. This is by Mark Gill. So yes, penis. Exmo review. Is it a legit exchange? I'm going to leave that one to you to decide, but we'll go ahead and read this gentleman's article just to find out what he thinks. Founded in 2013, Exmo is a small UK-based cryptocurrency exchange which claims to have team members and investors located around the world. While trading volume is very low compared to major cryptocurrency exchanges such as Bitfinex, Exmo does have something to offer with a number of advantages. In particular, there is good currency support with 4 fiat currencies, USD, Euros, UAH, and Rubles, RUB, Bitcoin, and a dozen of altcoins available. Buying and selling and exchanging on Exmo is incredibly easy since the platform is so simple to use. It's therefore an ideal cryptocurrency exchange for beginners who will appreciate the intuitive interface design. However, it doesn't have many additional features, so those looking to do margin trading will probably want to look elsewhere. Generally speaking, the website works well though some comments found online suggest its servers haven't always been the most reliable. Exmo is easy to navigate, and buying and selling crypto is quick and easy, I guess. While Exmo does offer a wallet for you to store your newly purchased cryptocurrency, it's recommended you take your crypto off the exchange and store it in a secure wallet of your choosing. Let's see. Currency support. There is good currency support on Exmo with the US dollar, euro, Ukrainian hryvnias, and the Russian ruble accepted. With these currencies, it's possible to buy the following: Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, Dash, Ethereum, Waves, Zcash, Tether, Monero, Ripple, Kitcoin, Ethereum Classic, and Bitcoin Cash. There's also an exchange service between USD and Euro. Overall, Exmo offers a good selection of altcoins. Making a deposit is easy since there are so many ways to fund an Exmo account. The exchange not only accepts bank transfers, but also debit cards and credit cards. For withdrawals, you can also use PayPal. Deposits and withdrawals are generally quite quick, but this obviously depends on the method chosen. Country support. Thanks to the wide range of ways in which you can deposit into your account, Exmo is available in most countries. The website itself is available in 11 different languages: English, Spanish, French, German, Italian, Portuguese, Romanian, Chinese, Russian, Ukrainian, and Polish. As always, be sure to check the legality of cryptocurrency in your location before buying and selling. Fees. Because Exmo allows so many different payment methods, there are a lot of different transaction fees to consider. We'll take a look at the main ones. When making a deposit or withdrawing, there's a flat 0.2% fee regardless of the method chosen. Depositing cryptocurrencies on Exmo incurs no additional charge, with the exception of Kitcoin, for which there is a fee of 50 Kik. Withdrawing cryptocurrency comes with the following fees. Bitcoin is 0.001 BTC, Litecoin is 0.01 Litecoin, Dogecoin is 1 Doge, Dash is 0.01, Ethereum is 0.01, Waves is 0.001 Waves, Zcash is 0.01 ZEC, Tether is 5 USDT, Monero is 0.05 XMR, Ripple 0.02 XRP, Kitcoin 25 Kik, Ethereum Classic 0.01 Ethereum Classic, and Bitcoin Cash is 0.001 Bitcoin Cash. Well, just judging by the exchange rates here, it looks like it'd be cheapest to do things either by Litecoin, Dogecoin, maybe Dash, and Bitcoin Cash. Ethereum looks a little bit expensive. If you're depositing USD, then you can expect to pay 2% plus $20 for a wire transfer. If you are using USD, you also have the option of paying via PayPal. While it is free, withdrawing funds to PayPal incurs a fee of 3% of the transaction. Paying with Euro via SEPA transfer costs $25, or 25 euros rather. Needless to say, there are always cheaper ways of depositing and withdrawing, whether that's choosing another method or another cryptocurrency exchange. Depositing USD and Euro via credit or debit card is free, but withdrawing incurs a charge of 3% or $7.50 or 3% plus $7.50 or 3% plus €6. Customer support. Exmo claims to have 24/7 customer support. The support offered by Exmo is similar to many cryptocurrency exchanges in that it's largely online and replies tend to take a few days. When it comes to contacting support, you'll have 3 similar options. One is submitting a support ticket via the online form. Another is sending them a direct email. There's also an online chat option, which is somewhat hit or miss. Upon testing it myself, I had a very quick initial response, but the replies could be more professional since they tended to be very short, often consisting of just 1 or 2 words. It may come down to luck as to who you speak with. Public opinion / online reviews. As Exmo is a relatively smaller cryptocurrency exchange, there is little in the way of opinion to be found online. What's more, there are no other reviews on authoritative sites. The vast majority of Exmo reviews to be found appear to be paid reviews, which raises a certain degree of suspicion. As such, it's important to approach the exchange with some degree of caution, since it's less established than the likes of Coinbase or Bittrex, for example. One source of information is the following Bitcoin Talk forum thread, which features up-to-date comments. Most of the comments consist of issues experienced by users, but this is not uncommon in a public forum. Conclusion: Exmo is a valid option to consider, particularly if you're seeking a smaller cryptocurrency exchange. The currency support is much better than many other crypto exchanges, and there's reasonable selection of altcoins to choose from. It's also nice to see many payment options which allow more people from more locations to be able to use it. Despite these advantages, it's important to be cautious when signing up to a cryptocurrency exchange, particularly when it's less well known, as in this case. Very, very good. Very good. I like that. It's a nice balanced approach to representing the facts. So thank you, Mr. Gill. Scansion was pretty good too, and I didn't notice any striking grammatical issues, so there you go. And let's see, exchangewar.info. CC has been spot on with listening in, and he's provided us with a neat little link here, or at least me, and I'm going to check it out really quick here and see what it looked like. And this is exchangewar.info. And apparently, it is a rating of different exchanges. Very good. Thank you very much, CC. I appreciate that. But yeah, it's got them at number 19. Exmo. Country of origin apparently is Great Britain. And so yeah. Oh wow, this is cool. It's got a lot of good information on that. Yeah, so if you're looking for another exchange to trade on, thank you, CC. Go to exchangewar.info. I'm liking I'm liking this a lot. It's very good, comprehensive coverage, it looks like. So yeah. And it is with that, I'd like to be drawing this one to a close. But as the last article cautions us, watch out for your own bunghole. I mean, number 19, that's pretty low on the bar there. I mean, especially given the fact that there are 18 before it, and Bitfinex is one of them. But that's funny. They rate Bittrex at number 6. It's probably because of the issues they've had with getting back to customers. I mean, I will say this. They do get back to you eventually, but you really got to be like Johnny on the spot with regard to following their instructions, because they're not highly enunciated, but you do have to follow them. So like when they tell you to respond to the email that they've sent you, or where to respond to it, or how to respond to it, you actually have to follow those directions. You can't just hit reply and just go for it. Anywho, but yeah, I'm going to close this one out. We will be back again on Friday, and I'll do my best to get this one up on the YouTube channel as quickly as possible. As you may have noted, I did get at the last one before this one actually started, so that's a mild improvement on my point. I've been trying to prioritize the posting of them a little higher in my ranking of things to get done. Anywho, we will be back again on Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I'd like you all to trade safe, do your homework, and watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. Thank you very, very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. See you again on Friday, and you all have an excellent evening. Last Dance, Megadeth, Holy Wars, The Punishment Due. Thank you again. Night.